so many business and selling plateaus are not skills problems. They're actually unexamined, unconscious patterns. Welcome to 2026. This actually might be the video of the year. This actually might be the video I think that is the most important video I'll shoot for you this year. I want to talk about a topic that might make some roll their eyes. I want to explain why journaling is so powerful. There's a phrase by the German philosopher Carl Jung. He says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. A large proportion of human behavior is driven by these forces that are outside our conscious awareness. These include deep-seated beliefs formed in childhood, emotional wounds, unresolved experiences, learned survival strategies, and fears, desires, motivations that we never consciously choose. And many of these forces are unconscious, but they still act. They just act without our permission. And it creates this hidden operating system. It's like an autopilot. It's extraordinary, the amount of our behavior which is on autopilot. So much of our behavior is governed in our, I think it's like 80-90% comes from our subconscious. Comes from, we don't choose, we don't even think about it. You feel a thing and then you come up with a story that explains why you feel that thing. Isn't that how we do it? We feel a thing and then we come up with a story. Rather than the story being the truth, it's just it fills the gap. We notice a pattern that hasn't got a cause, or we can't identify that cause because it's subconscious, and we fill that gap with a story. And then we'll label it fate in the Carl Jung model. We'll label it fate to capture this idea of an external force acting upon us. But in reality, it's simply our conditioning running amok, running unchecked. Feels external? It's really internal. It reflects actions that we unknowingly performed. Actions made unknowingly, such as behavior in our relationships, how we react emotionally in moments that demand clarity. We'll find ourselves avoiding opportunities that we say we want. Making that unconscious conscious changes everything. This is where journaling comes in. Because when a pattern becomes visible, it loses power. Awareness introduces choice. I can now, as long as I'm aware of the pattern, as long as I'm aware of the reflex, the conditioning, the operating system, well, now I get a choice. Instead of react and then regret, story time, we get awareness, we can pause, we can bring our conscious mind to the moment, and we can respond. Awareness, pause, response. This operating system shows up consistently in our performance, in our sales, in our client results, my client results, your customers' results. In fact, so many business and selling plateaus are not skills problems. They're actually unexamined, unconscious patterns. Performance essentially is dictated on three levels. It's a skill issue, what we know how to do. It's a behavior issue, what we actually do. And then it's an identity and belief issue. Why is it that we avoid certain things, especially under pressure? The pressure of selling really puts the heat under this issue. Training and coaching alone is cool, but it works on level one. It's skill. Accountability is brilliant, cooler than cool. Working on level two. It's coaching, and that includes self-coaching, and the most powerful tool I know of in self-coaching is journaling. Coaching works on level three. Interestingly, consistency, consistent results. When we notice something's happening, consistency, it's usually living in level three. When the unconscious is not examined, it hijacks behavior. It's the seller blaming the market, the prospect, the product, the pricing, timing, fate. It's the seller, fate. It's not me. It's the parent blaming the school, the TV, the video games. It's the worker blaming their tools. I want to take a moment now and talk about selling in particular. Sales is the perfect sort of crucible for these issues. It's the perfect mirror for the unconscious. It compresses pressure, uncertainty, rejection, authority issues, money issues, and all identity issues into tiny, short conversations. These are unconscious hot zones. Under that kind of pressure, conscious intentions disappear, conditioning takes over. This is why in selling, when you review your own calls and you think, why on earth did I do that again? In selling, we can know better and still behave the same way. It is a crucible. It's high pressure conversation, uncertainty, There's a hell of a lot of value on that conversation. Very uncertain what's happening in the conversation. It's got rich rejection potential. There are authority issues that we carry around with us, money issues we carry around with us, and lots of identity issues. And it compresses all that power into very short conversations. Of course, it's a hot zone. Here's some examples. Prospecting avoidance. That might be inconsistent outreach, over-preparing instead of picking up the phone and making some calls, hiding behind research or CRM notes or admin. What that really is underneath. So that's what it looks like. What it really is, it's fear of rejection tied to self-worth. It's a belief that interruption equals disrespect. It's early experiences of being dismissed or ignored. So we self-sabotage. We avoid making the calls, and we'll say, I'm just better in conversations once people are interested. Maybe it's discounting, weak negotiation. We drop price too early. We justify cost defensively. We have fear of silence in negotiations. That's what it looks like on the surface. The operating system, it's a need to be liked. It's a discomfort with conflict. And it is the way we often, many of us, all of us in fact, to different extents, we tie our identity to approval. Not confronting misalignment, even though our gut's telling us that we're not aligned here. Underneath, it's a belief that authority belongs to the buyer. And it's some childhood conditioning often around power dynamics. And we'll say to ourselves, I just don't want to push them. The deal's going to blow up if I push them. We're working so hard to avoid pushing that we avoid winning. Isn't that crazy? We work so hard to avoid pushing that we avoid winning. Inconsistent closing behavior is another great example. Deals go dark, optimism without proof. Yeah, this one's going to close. That's the story I'm going to tell myself because the alternative is pretty brutal. This one's going to close. Hoping instead of validating. Underneath, what's the operating system underneath that? I've got a fear of hearing no clearly. I'd rather hear a maybe. I've got an emotional attachment to this deal. And I've got my identity tied to being chosen. So we'll tell ourselves the story. Do you know, they were really interested, those guys. Just didn't happen. Fate at play again. Knowledge alone is never going to override this unconscious wiring, but awareness can, and that is the power of journaling. A habit of journaling unlocks the next level of performance because it forces the unconscious into language. That's the beauty of it. I've got to put words at it. I've got to write those words down. When I force it into language, once something is in language form, once I've written it, it can be examined, it can be challenged, it can be changed. That's where the real power comes from here. But one of the many ways in which the real power manifests here. I'm forcing this into language. Naval Ravikant says time spent undistracted and alone in self-examination, journaling, meditation takes us from mentally fat to fit. While the pattern is unnoticed, we're like a potter or a painter blindfolded. Kills our creativity. We need to take the blindfold off. Then we can see the connection between action and result. That's what journaling is. I'm putting words at these things, these very untangible things. Now I can start to see the connections, the patterns. We can reveal repeated emotional triggers, predictable behaviors under pressure, familiar excuses and stories we tell ourselves. We can't change these patterns whilst they remain invisible. Journaling will expose why certain deals stall, why certain conversations feel heavy, why certain people and prospects drain energy. This alone will raise performance, just the clarity of it. But it does more than that. As we get deeper into it, as we get more comfortable with it, it'll provide emotional regulation when you're under that pressure. Writing slows the nervous system. And when we can name fear, frustration, anticipation, and resistance, we reduce its grip on us. We become better listeners. We become stronger in silence. We ask cleaner questions. We're calmer in negotiation. Essentially, journaling is unlocking composure. Elite performers will separate who they are from what just happened. And journaling reinforces that distinction. It builds that wall a little higher between our identity and our role. I blew that becomes that approach triggered discomfort, and here's why. Now that might feel like a lot of words. Might seem so much easier to say, hey, I blew that. Look how strong I am. Prepared to admit that I blew that. There's no strength in that. There's not. Way stronger to drill down that 6 inches deeper. Learning compounds. So the learning will compound instead of leak away because I'm writing it down. Most learning leaks out within days, and journaling converts that experience into stored insight. It answers 3 performance critical questions. What just happened? Why did it happen? And what am I going to do differently next time? There's magic there. One sales call can improve the next 10 if we take the right lesson out. Without reflection, that experience stays isolated. With journaling, it can compound. And you only need to get 1% better a day for magic to happen in our revenue, in our pipeline, in our revenue, and in our bank accounts. Journaling is building essentially this internal coach, and it asks it asks through 2 lenses. I want you to think of it proactively and then as a sort of a pre-mortem and a post-mortem to the event. This can happen before and after. Where will I avoid the truth? Where did I avoid the truth? Where will I trade approval for certainty? Where did I trade approval for certainty? These bookends become very powerful. Where will I perform well under pressure? Where did I perform well under pressure? A simple high-performance journaling structure can make huge differences when we execute it daily for 90 days, 180 days, 360 days. And that's why my big call out is journaling in 26 for all of you. A simple high-performance journaling structure. Let's start in the morning. Gratitude. 3 things you're grateful for. No one's going to read it. It can be scribbled. It can be scruffy. Don't worry about the spelling. 3 things you're grateful for, but every day. 3 affirmations. Power statement about yourself. Quick goals review. What am I trying to achieve this year, this month, this week, today? Things that I want to attract into my life. Then do that pre-mortem. Look at your calendar. Look forward for the day. What happens today that matters? Where will I feel tension, fear, or resistance? What story will I tell myself in that moment? What is actually true? And what's the behavior I will practice? It's 15 minutes, guys. It is simply 15 minutes. It's daily. It's transformational. And then run the same 5 questions at the end of the day as a post-mortem. Magic. What happened today that matters? Where did I feel tension, fear, resistance? What story did I tell myself in that moment? What is actually true, and what is the behavior I will practice moving forward? Journaling is simply seeing ourselves clearly. It's naming our emotional response in real time. It's recognizing when behavior shifts under pressure. It's separating our self-worth from outcomes. It's understanding our default survival strategies. It's introducing choice instead of reaction. This is the difference between people who blame the universe and those who shape it. Until we understand why we do what we do under pressure, no script, no framework, no accountability or methodology will save us. We'll repeat the same patterns and call it fate. There's such huge power in journaling, and you can start today. Do it like you mean it. Do it like you mean it. And extraordinary things can happen. I've seen it happen countless times.